gotta be strong in this time, son. I'm a survivor. I will survive. I will survive. And I'm a firm believer. We'll forever strive just to stay alive. That simple means say nobody can hold me man. Nobody can change my energy. Nobody can turn me sick. I will let alone negativity. Nobody can hold me man. Nobody can change my energy. Nobody can. Nobody can. Everybody show me some strength. No weakness. Show me a lion. Strength. No weakness. Show them who we are. Strength. No weakness. Show me a lion. Everybody strength. No weakness. Show them who we are. Not when you roll. Your enemies, they must tremble. Your enemies, they must tremble. Yo, not when you roll. Everything has to humble. Everything has to humble. I'm a go-getter. I just go hard. I just go. Hold me, man.
This is Ridealong Live, where everyone has a story to tell.
You gotta be firm in this time, son. You gotta be strong in this time, son. I'm a survivor.
Hey, ride along, welcome to the ride. Welcome to Wednesday on the ride. Yeah, Wednesday on the ride. We had to change around things a little bit today. You know, on Wednesday, we usually deal with immigration and it will be fun day. It will be Wednesday, fun day. But today we had to change it around. We had to change it around and for a good reason, for very good reason. Today we're going to talk economics. We have probably two of the most sought after economic heads, economic advisors, people who know this thing back and forth, people in the forefront of things. And we're going to get a lot of information today, guys. So I want you guys to share this program once, share it twice, and keep sharing it because today we're talking with Dr. Patrick Antonie and Mr. Perry C. Douglas. It will be a very interesting program here today. So as you come in, go ahead and share up the program. Share up the program, share it up, 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 share it up. And let me do that as well. Let me do it as well. Lacey J, how are you doing? Welcome to the ride. Thank you so much. Yes. Thank you so much. Esther, big up yourself. Yeah, man, share everything. Let me start a watch party over on my end, right? Guys, let me tell you, first of all, I had such an amazing time today, right? Because for a long time, I went fishing. And for those of you who know me from growing up in La Digue, in Richmond, in Grenada, I'm always used to be by the river. Always used to be by the sea, by the jetty. That used to be my thing. But today I took my son fishing. And it was such a great experience. Yeah, we haul a whole set of fishes as well. It was exciting. And an opportunity to bond with my son, and there was other people there. It was an excellent experience, guys. And I post some pictures over on my personal Facebook page. I did a vlog over there as well. I want you guys to check it out. Who thought fishing could have been so exciting? Yeah, who thought that fishing could have been exciting? I feel like I want to go. Whenever you guys miss me and for a day and Lynn is here, I am out to the sea. I'm out fishing. I'm getting hip to it. Yeah, man. It was a great experience. It was an excellent experience. Love it. Esther, let's see, what you say? Michelle, we're late. No, we're not. Michelle, welcome to the ride. How you doing? Big up yourself. Where's my music? Yes.
Yeah.
Jesse, my friend Andel, how you doing? Big up yourself. Guys, giving you guys some chance to share this program. Share this program once, share this program twice. Let's get ready to go. Let's get ready to go again. Today on the program, we have Dr. Patrick Antonie and Mr. Perry Ellis. They're ready to chat. And of course, we're going to be opening up the phone a little bit later to get your views on it. A lot to digest, a lot to discuss. Oh, so you did see, you were paying attention, Lacey J. A lot of them we had to throw back, yeah, because it was too young. I thought he was too young, and we just had to throw them back. It's too small. Fishing is medicine, is meditation. Damn right it is. All right, guys, let me go ahead and share this program one more time here and start a watch party over on my end. And then we're going to jump straight into the discussion. Hold on. 1, 2. Good. Good to go. One more. Good to go. And all right. All right, guys, let's start the program up today. As I said, today, we're going to be talking the economy with probably the two most sought after persons on the topic. First, we have, and first time on the program, Dr. Patrick Antonie. You guys, of course, know Dr. Patrick Antonie. Just about a week ago, a new NGO was launched. It's called the TGM. And Dr. Patrick Antonie is the chairman of that organization. And we'd like to welcome Dr. Patrick Antonie to the right. Doctor, how are you doing, sir?
Thank you very much. I'm doing very well. Thank you. Thank you for having me on your program. I've heard lots about it before. This is my first time.
Great. Thank you, sir. Thank you. And of course, Mr. Perry Douglas, who is chairman, Impact Capital Corp and Exclusive Agenda Vlog. Mr. Perry Douglas, welcome to Ridealong, sir. How are you doing?
Not too bad, sir. Thank you for having me. I watch your show all the time, and it's a wonderful show. So I'm honored to be here with you.
Thank you. And let me tell you guys, we had to change around the whole format today because I wanted to get you guys on, and to get you guys on the same program, it had to be strategic. You guys are very busy. As I said, very sought after. A man like Dr. Patrick Antonie, we can't get him at all. And to coordinate this schedule here is like, we had to pull a lot of strings. So I'm happy that you guys are here. Dr. Patrick Antonie, we'll start with you, give you opportunity for the people who are watching you very first time on the ride. Just give us a broad scope of yourself, sir.
Well, I am son of the soil. I was born in a little community called Mount Morris, but I spent a lot of my years in St. Andrews, Munich, Ladigue, Plaisance, Richmond. Those communities know me well. My grandmother was an annual stopover even when I migrated to Jamaica. So I grew up in Jamaica, went to Jamaica College, returned to Grenada, went to IFE. That would be the Institute for Further Education. I was the first person from the IFE to go back to the IFE to teach. And really from there to university, UWI. And from there to University of Florida, and I've been working in the region since. I'm a regional man, but I'm Grenadian to the core.
All right. And of course, Mr. Perry Douglas, give you opportunity to intro yourself a little bit to our audience. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Like Patrick, I was born in son of the soil, born in Grenada. Born in a little house in Montrose, St. Patrick's, and immigrated. You know how it goes, right? Your mother leaves you with your grandmother, and you grow up there for a while, and your mother comes back and she takes you, and brought us to Montreal in Canada, where Went to high school, and I went to McGill University there. And upon graduation, I dove into the investment business. And over the last 10 years or so, I think I've dedicated a lot of my work and my knowledge to try to create a better existence economically for the people of Grenada. And it's about the region, because if the region is not strong, one island in itself is not going to be strong. So yeah, that's who I am, and that's what I'm about. And again, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Dr. Antoine, we'll start with you. Last week, we were, in fact, one of the medium that was selected to air a broadcast of a new NGO, TGM. Tell us your blueprint for, and you're chairman of that organization, of course. Tell us an idea of your blueprint for that NGO, the TGM.
Thanks a lot for the opportunity to address this. The TGM has really come out of diverse directions. Diverse directions because many of us, in one way or another, have been connected with each other over the years. Michael Church has been a friend of mine since I've been in my teens. Jenny Simon, even before that, walking from school. Myself from IFE, she from the Anglican High School. In one way or another, all of us have been connected in various dimensions and various spheres. And it's important to say that because even though many times in the past years we have sat on different sides of the fence on public policy issues, forget the party, public policy issues, the way that we looked at things, the way in which we articulated, and the way in which we identified with the various solutions. There was always a bond between us, among us, that went beyond the differences that we had. And let me just say that I met Perry Douglas years ago when he and I were both talking about how we do some development that would benefit the country. And it happens now that years later, we have reconnected on a different platform so that there are these interconnections. And our blueprint really is simple. We want to build out what the direction ought to be for this, what we call this new economy and new society that we think needs to emerge in Grenada. We believe that the old models of development, which is really based on old ways of doing things, have run its course. So for instance, if you're talking about agriculture, the cutlass and hoe and that type of agriculture, that certainly has run its course. And unless you're talking about embracing technology and using what we have to really what we call drive through the value chains into value added products and services. Notice I didn't just say products and services, and connecting our own domestic market to regional markets and to global markets, then you're not really talking about making the transition to the new economy. And so for us, the platform for all of that has to be recognizing that we're in the midst of the fourth industrial revolution, which is information and telecommunications technology. And we're so serious about this in recognizing that our country is falling further and further behind. And also, we're losing a lot of social capital. And we believe that in addition to the economic factors, and in addition to creating the economic activity and the change that is required from the old economy to the new economy in manufacturing, the world has gone to artificial intelligence, and 3D printing has become something that many countries do and encourage in the manufacturing sector almost automatically. And unless we can start making that transition, the gap that we've seen emerge in the last 2 decades will grow wider and wider and wider. And we believe that Grenada is up to the task. We believe that there are Grenadians all over the world. In the United States, we have Grenadians in all facets doing amazing things. We have to find a way to leapfrog this time that it will take for us to catch up, which we don't have anymore. Embrace those people, those resources, those networks, those relationships to take the country to where it ought to go. If we don't do that, we believe that what we see happening now, increasing restlessness of the youth population, increasing unemployment, and the unemployment didn't start with COVID. We've had a stubborn unemployment problem where our unemployment in the best of years, even when the economy was growing at its fastest pace, our unemployment was still 20, 21%, 23% even, depending on who you believe.
Yeah.
That means that one in every 4 persons in the best of times, 1 in 4 persons were unemployed. And with people coming out of school, the extent to which the social welfare programs could take them up, the limit to that we believe we'd reached, which is why I think we've started having so many, what I would want to say is challenges with the programs, because I think people's expectations have certainly outgrown the capacity of what is called the Imani program to supply them where the economy isn't growing fast enough and creating enough jobs. So we believe that transition to the new economy is key, and the new society that comes with it means that we need to revisit values, norms. We need to look at what Grenada has that is really these cultural values that are amazing, that made us the go-to race or community, nation, civilization even. Among Caribbean civilizations, people wanted to employ Grenadians because, we were really hardworking, and we had really high values that you could turn your back on. And we think that it's important for us to nurture that, and in many instances to recapture it. I'm saying 2 things.
Yeah.
I'm saying we're losing it, and I'm saying we need to recapture it where we're losing it, and where we have it, we need to nurture it, because it's getting old. People are becoming worried about, well, am I the one who is being honest in the society? If being dishonest at times means that I can get ahead, and we have to rekindle that so that we have the old Grenadian values, norms, traditions. Those things we have to start now inculcating in the population again. And the last thing is social capital. What made the post-royal community strong, and Munich strong, and Richmond strong, and Montmorris strong? We believe we're losing that. We're losing the let me help you and you help me. Everything has become transactional. Increasingly, I will only help you if I get paid for it. I will only clean the community drains. I will only put in my effort if I will get paid for it. And we have to try to get that back.
Right. I want to get to the new economy. I want to talk about the green economy. I want to talk about all these things. But specifically on the launch of TGM, a lot of people looked at it, and it resembles to what a lot of people call a political party in disguise. And you said something there at the launch. I want to play for everyone to listen to, and just give me, that's probably one of the reaction when they get after you said this. Check this out.
Democracy also means that our increasingly polarized society must find a place for institutions such as TGM, for us to offer an alternative view, and where and as necessary at times, yes, even to point to a third way.
A third way. Are we looking at organization, NGO, that is somehow disguised as a political third option party? Be honest.
Well, yes, I only intend to be honest. And in fact, I chuckle whenever the question comes. Let me answer it in 2 ways. Always honest. The third way that we're talking about is what I've said to a number of colleagues over the years. They will bear me out on this. That we need to be focused on what are the things we need to prioritize when we look at the Grenada economy and the Grenada society of the future. My friend, it bothers me that 90% of the discussions in the public domain in Grenada is about looking back. Remember when, remember what, remember how. We're not talking about, let us look yonder, as we used to say in Montmorris, yonder to look ahead. So that rather than having a discussion about what we should be doing to take our economy to the levels of growth and employment and poverty reduction and diversification and care and the provision of all of these great things that our society is seeing on TV that they deserve because our foreparents have sacrificed for it, we still focused on 5 years ago. Remember when, right? Remember how when you came in 10 years ago, you promised this, but listen, the world has moved on. So for us, because those discussions are happening which are retrospective, looking back, we believe that some force of a group in the center that is growing, Junior. That center vote is growing. The group is growing. That group of people who don't participate either in the elections process, exercising their franchise, or in the process of contributing to ideas because they don't think their view will matter. We're talking to that group and saying, let us harness all our collective efforts and let us start looking forward. That's the third way. The third way is that it's not everything that the NDC has done that is wrong. It's not all the policies they enunciated, right, that are wrong-headed. It is not everything that the NNP has done that is wrong. It's not all the policies that they have instituted that are silly. But there is good in all of the various contributions that we've paid for. And most importantly, there's so much good in the civil society organizations that none of the agendas actually pick up and build on. We want to harness all of that. That's the third way. The third way is bringing all of the views of Grenadians, both at home and in the diaspora, together in a development agenda that looks forward. So right now, I'm not concerned as much with, look, man, what are we going to do tomorrow? Meaning day after tomorrow. I'm concerned with where do we want to be in 5 years and what do we need to do today to get there? And so, for instance, I can give you a good example. While our people are unemployed, where you have the proper information and communications technology, the backbone, people are creating jobs, my friend, in the cultural industries. They are collaborating online in music and design. Women all over the world and young people are now starting to engage in the development of coding, and they're selling services all over the world. People are able to sell products and to receive payment for them using payment platforms without leaving home. There's so many things we need to focus on looking ahead. And if we don't fix those things today, Junior, we're going to be in a lot of worry. That's the third way. That's the third way.
In short, are you saying yes, that the TGM currently registered as an NGO is actually a third way or a third political party in the making? Yes.
No, I am saying that we are putting together a third form of development ideas based on the collective of all the ideas out there.
So it's like a pressure group. It's like a pressure group.
You can call it a pressure group because I think it comes closest to the jargon that we use, but we like to call it a cause group. Right. Our cause is the development of Grenada looking ahead.
Right.
Our cause is how do we deal with this development dilemma that all Caribbean economies are now facing, and some are starting to find ways.
But there are over 600 groups in Grenada that fall under that same NGO platform. Why not collaborate with one of those groups and make it better than to create another group from scratch?
Very good thought, Junior. So let me answer it this way. While there are 600 registered NGOs, and I don't know if it's 600, let me just say that for the record, because I am first and foremost a mathematical economist.
Okay.
So I don't know that it's 600, but let us presume it's 600. How many of these groups are actually active is the second question.
But I
want to submit to you it's a fraction of these. Thirdly, a lot of these groups have very specific mandates, and laudably so. I hear sometimes some noises I don't even need to respond to. I've grown up in a family where my mother and father have in fact been very strong social forces in civic society groups, including groups in Jamaica. My mother managed a whole ghetto constituency in adult literacy. So we've grown up with that culture. I'm simply saying how many of these groups are active, that you can touch and feel them, but I'm acknowledging that we have a couple very strong groups in Grenada that's done good work in specific areas. We are submitting. There is a gap in the center for a group dealing with how do we grapple with the challenges of development in the broad way that we are. And let me give you an example. How many groups responded to the last budget? How many groups responded to the last throne speech? How many groups analyzed the policies that the government enunciated, for instance, where it said that we couldn't afford to pay the civil servants. I mean, it may be true, it may not be true, but how many actually analyzed it? How many groups analyzed, for instance, the disparity that exists in terms of access, right, to telecommunications services in countries like ours compared to the rest of the world? So what I'm trying to say is simply this. We believe that there is a space in the center, a big space in the center for a group like ours. And we don't profess to have all the answers or to be the savior for all of these problems. What we are saying is that we are prepared to work with the groups that's there, and we are prepared to play our part. Let me tell you, Junior, over the last 3 nights, we have some young people and some not so young people analyzing the throne speech. Junior, that's not something that I have heard of or seen in the last 3 years. And so I believe what we're seeing with TGM coming on board and with more and more people saying we want to be part of this movement where we're looking ahead, where we're not engaged in tribal politics and we're not married to entrenched positions that parties would have taken in the past, but we want to look at the challenge before us of making sure that we can provide for people those things that we committed to. When we talk about our motto about together we aspire, together we achieve, when we talk about those great things, Grenadians want things at home that people in the rest of the world want. How do we provide it in a way that allows us to maximize all our resources? We believe that TGM has a role to play in all of these various respects I've mentioned.
What about people who say that the framework, the makeup of TGM look like disgruntled politician who had an axe to grind, whether with the NDC or the NNP, coming together to form this like a disgruntled bunch? You yourself were a part or advisor to the government of Grenada, and some people might say it's a bunch of tailcoat people who are just move on, just decided that they're against the Prime Minister or they're against NDC. How do you respond to those comments?
I am not against anything. I actually want to publicly continue to acknowledge the fact that I am very, very fortunate to have been afforded the opportunity to work for the government and people of Grenada. I am not ever going to say anything different. The government of Grenada, led by Prime Minister Mitchell and his cabinet, gave me an opportunity as an intellectual to develop some amazing skills and to manifest some interesting lines of work that I think went against the grain. What we were able to do in a number of areas, I think, is really simply amazing for a small developing country. We were able, when the rest of the world said we couldn't do it, when we had made commitments globally on a number of things that matter, things that now form the basis of where CARICOM is looking. Things like developing the poultry industry. Nothing to sneeze at, Junior. We import nearly $130 million worth of poultry meat, US dollars. We import nearly $70 million worth of eggs. But Grenada could never have participated in what now is emerging as a massive opportunity if we were not able to protect our industry so that we could grow them, just like the United States does, because we made some silly errors back in 1981, 1982. Some silly errors legally, which the rest of the world said you could do nothing about. You had to live with it in perpetuity. And we went against a lot of the thinking in CARICOM, and we did something called rebinding our rate so that now we can develop a poultry industry like the rest of the region. But more than that, we had an amazing opportunity in the brewing, and we really botched it because by the same misdirected policy, we made some legal commitments that meant Grenada could not even protect its breweries. And what we did is that we did some amazing work, which now has the brewery in Grenada as one of the, well, not one of, it is the most high-performing manufacturing export industry we have. And I'm making the point that the government of Grenada gave me an opportunity to work for the people when they gave the mandate to be able to develop these industries so that we could now be providing jobs in brewing and in other sectors, which otherwise would not have been there. So I want to say publicly, I have no war. I have no war with the government of Grenada or with the administration. We're focused on policies looking ahead. And my view is that there are a lot of things that we could and should have done better. On your program, I'm saying to you clearly, there are some things that we could have and should have done better. We should have done them differently. We should have moved at a faster pace. So this is not about a war with anybody. This is about us putting ideas together and us seeing how we can get those ideas reflected in policy. And there's some things we need to do totally different, Junior. We need to stop doing some old things that we've been doing totally. We need to do some old things we've been doing, but do them differently. And we need to do some things that we've not been doing at all, some new things. We need to do a lot of these new things, and we need to do them quickly. That's our agenda. We're not against anything. We are pro-Grenada, pro-development, and we're looking to the future.
Absolutely, guys. Again, we're talking here with Dr. Antoine. We have Mr. Perry Douglas we're going to be chatting with extensively. I just wanted to get this out. I mean, we never had an opportunity to talk about those things. And those are lingering conversation that has been heard on social media platforms. So I thought that we should address that first and foremost. Lastly, before we talk about the economical structure and the new economy, what relationship is the TGM have with the NNP currently, and what relationship does the TGM have with the NDC? Or are there any relationship between those organizations and your organization, sir?
Well, Junior, you're asking some very blunt questions, not even a little. The truth is this. We are truly an NGO. We have no relationships to any political party. We want to build out the agenda. So if you think about social media, you think about building an app, or you think about building a website, we want to work on the content. The vehicle for us really is where we reach out and we try to influence policy through dialogue and through consultations, through the preparation of papers, through building consensus in the society with other groups. That's really the medium. At this time, let me be very clear, and I want to be blunt. The TGM will go where the people want it to go. We're just a vehicle. The people will drive TGM. Let me be clear in saying too, TGM will go where the members want it to go. The members will determine where TGM goes in the future. Right now, we are very much of an NGO with no links to the political parties at all. But let me be clear. We want to maintain good relations with all the political parties in building this agenda. It is for the political parties to decide they don't want to deal with us. But we are very clear that to be a third voice for the society, we have to be open to everyone. And let me just make the point about the rejects, because I've heard it too. The way that I understood this, and the colleagues that I have no brief with anyone. I can tell you while I hear the term rejects, the sense of camaraderie and the respect that I feel and see among my colleagues from the parties that they came from is absolutely amazing. It doesn't reflect fairly on them at all. I am an old footballer. You can kick me down and I will get up and I will play the next game as though nothing happened. I see that spirit in all my colleagues, in Michael Church, in Benny Simon. Amazing people. They batted based on a particular agenda. They defended that agenda then. Years later, everybody is grown. People are seeing things differently. And everybody has the opportunity to grow. But before I go on that point, let me say that Prime Minister Mitchell was not always with the NNP. He's transitioned from one political, sort of dispensation to another. Peter David was not always with the NNP. He's transitioned from one dispensation to another. So that this issue, this use of the term rejects, because people decide that they want to come together in a manner that is different to the manner in which the society usually identifies them with. When you put rejects on them, then I think it really doesn't fit. Because in our society, for instance, Terry Forrester was the NNP PR person. He's now the NDC PR person. And so as you look across the society, when you do the analysis, there's so many people who are allowed to change their mind. That's part of democracy, Junior.
Yeah, some people just
you're allowed to change your mind.
Some people say just shuffling around the same ideas. Let's take a question here from Jerry Grant. He's saying, without any long rambling speech, I don't know who he's talking to, me or you. I don't know who he's saying have a rambling speech, but he said that I like to know, as a pressure group or a third way, without directly controlling the reign of power, how do you intend to implement these policies that you so eloquently express without contesting or winning political office?
Well, Junior, let me go to the core of the question from the colleague without the rambling stuff, because I think we're having a chance to chat. This is not an interview, it's a chat. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to chat.
Absolutely.
So my view is that the first thing we need to do is to try to influence policy by building out content. We have raised before with many colleagues that the problem we see is that we're always reacting to something. So the NNP administration comes out with something, you react to it. What about us trying to be proactive? Saying, look, this is the development path that we see. These are the policies that we see need to be implemented to achieve that path. We want to advocate among civil society. The word is to advocate. It's new. Not to fight, to say, guys, let us all now rally around a different ICT policy. Let us try to sell this ICT policy to the government. Let us sell it to the government, because you have now civil society groupings that we must first test. Let me repeat, we have to test. I'm not saying they're going to work, but I'm saying let us build out the content and test the groups. That is how we intend to try to build and to get the things that we think are important introduced in public policy. We want to have a conversation where the government can either say to us, look, we think it's a good idea. Look, we don't think it's a good idea, and here is why. Or the government can decide we're not engaging. We don't know what the response is going to be. What we do know is what we control. By the grace of God, we believe we have to build the content and test the system. Follow me. We must test the system. That's what we intend to do. The rest of it will flow from there.
Okay. All right. Let's bring in my friend. He's been in the back for a little bit. Mr. Perry Douglas. For those of you who seen him for the first time on the ride along, it's actually not the first time he's been on the ride along. Of course, Mr. Perry Douglas became the infamous Mr. Perry Douglas.
Boy, you treat me real bad already.
After he made an appearance on my colleague, Mr. Kellen Bob's show, and there were a lot said. We never had an opportunity to talk to him. I mean, this is not, we're not going to spend a half hour talking about it, but there was stuff that was said there that you never got an opportunity to even respond to. So this is the Minister Boswen making mention of the incident, how it happened. I want you to respond to it. Stand by, check this out.
But the most important aspect, the most contentious aspect, which I want to deal with, Mr. Speaker, was the statement made by one of the panelists, a gentleman by the name of, I can't recall his first name, but I think his surname is Douglas, who is supposed to be resident abroad, a Grenadian, as they said, resident abroad, involved in investment financing. And Mr. Speaker, from the tone of his presentation, I got the feeling that we were really not there to discuss this Libera project at all. And I was a bit taken aback. Although the discussion was proceeding smoothly, I was a bit taken aback when he referred to Grenada as a corrupt country. Mr. Speaker, that one I could not accept. I had no problem. I had no difficulty, Mr. Speaker, if the gentleman had referred to the NNP administration as being corrupt. We are accustomed to that. We have heard that many times. We have grown used to it. And as a matter of fact, the more they accuse NNP of being corrupt, the better we do at the polls. So if those who are making those statements are not learning the lesson, then that's too bad for them. So you could call NNP corrupt if you want. But to refer to your country as someone who says that he's a Grenadian, not abroad, I thought it was a bit, as they say in cricket, beyond the boundary.
So my question to you, sir, are you a political hack? And why did you mention or call the Grenada corrupt?
First of all, I never uttered those words. So the words calling Grenada corrupt was never uttered from my mouth. So, run the tape. So the thing is for me, right, I speak plainly and I speak facts, right? I'm on this show today not to engage in any type of politics. The reason I am on here today is, when you called me and you mentioned, Dr. Antoine is going to be on the show, I want to be fully transparent. The reason I endorse TGM is because TGM recognizes that Grenada right now is at a very critical juncture in time. And they recognize, and so do I, that the world is changing. We are moving through a digital transformation process. And if you do not get to a place, to a mindset that allows you to recognize change and recognize what's happening, the country will be left behind, right? So my comment is, I never said those words. I'm not a politician. I'm not going to engage in politics. So that would be my answer to Mr. Boatswain. And the reason why I'm here is because I believe that what TGM stands for, right, is very, very timely and relevant. And that's why I'm in support of it. You see, what happens to human beings in the human condition is that people don't handle change very well. People don't handle different ideas very well, right? But the history of the world and the history of civilization is adaptation. If you don't adapt, eventually your society goes in another direction. And that's true for Grenada, that's true for Canada, that's true for America, it's true for any country, right? So we have to start looking forward, okay? And put away the old talk, as my mother used to say, because it's not productive. It becomes tribal, it separates us, and guess what? Everybody else wins except us, because we're in a corner by the road arguing while the rest of the world is moving forward.
Okay.
Right? It is not progressive. So again, I don't get involved in any political talk, and that's not why I'm here.
Fair enough. I just wanted to, since we never had a chance to respond, but fair enough, I'll take that answer. Let me just read a quick statement here that was from it's the highlight from the CDB 2018 report, right? Gross domestic product GDP grew 5.2%, given by construction, tourism, private education, and manufacturing sector. The primary surplus increased 6.2%, while public debt declined 62.7% and domestic credit dropped. Grenada continued to be the fastest economy in the region and above focus, averaging 5% to 5.2% growth in construction and private education, manufacturing sector. SGU expanded project, Silver Sand Resort, Phase 1, Parliamentary Building, and it goes on and it goes on and goes on. Cruise ship passengers arrival 27.2% higher in region. Grenada is on the boom. Grenada is on the rise. How could we, from an economical point of view, how could we come from a place like that, where we was such an economic boost, to be in a situation in a COVID environment where weeks or months after in COVID, it's like it's flat? Explain the economics behind this situation here for me.
like everything else, it comes down to leadership. But if you could indulge me for a moment, I'm a student in history of history, and history always has a way of explaining things and put it in context for you to see the present and for you to design your own future, right? So we have to step back for a moment and ask ourselves, how did we get here, right? So if we look back, I call it, and I think Dr. Antoine mentioned it too, but it's the wealth gap. People continuously talking, the wealth gap. How do we close the wealth gap? Well, the wealth gap is 400 years in the making. Okay, so let's just go back in history for a second. Okay, the advent of the Atlantic slave trade, where Africans were brought to the Caribbean for pure economics in order to develop commodities, and we created a plantation system. Barbados, as an example, was the first society anywhere in the world, right, to be built strictly 100% on a plantation slave-based economy. So the idea was that Europeans will come here, take our natural resources, our cocoa, our precious metals, whatever it is, molasses, sugar, cane, take those resources, extract it for free, of course, to Europe, and engage in Europe in commerce, trade and commerce. They would take those products, those raw commodities, and manufacture it, right? So when you manufacture it and you engage in commerce and you engage in trade, that is where, okay, wealth is created. And they've been doing that for 400 years. And if you move to colonialism, it's the same thing. Extraction of resources to Europe in order to engage in trade, manufacture, and commerce, which creates wealth, right? This is how we have the wealth gap, right? So to me, what I'm trying to say to you is there's time for new thinking. We can't sit here, right, after 400 years and take this stuff, right? So my thing is very simple, okay? We have to weaponize ourselves, okay? We have to change our mindset, and we have to weaponize ourselves from an economic perspective. And what I mean by that is that instead of focusing on extracting, your commodities or whatnot, which does not, have huge price upside, why can't we, through digital technology, artificial intelligence, be able to, from the farmers, right, to manufacture the product, to market the product, to sell the product throughout the world? Because you can do that from you can do that digitally. Look at in COVID. Look at Amazon. They said Amazon has gone through 10 years of growth in the last 6 months under COVID. So what I think Dr. Anton was saying was that in order for us to create our own wealth, okay, Grenada has been going straight down on the poverty curve. In order for us to create our own wealth, okay, we must use technology in order to enable us to compete on a global scale. We have to start thinking globally. We have to start thinking we can compete, right? There are, in the diaspora in Grenada, there's lots of brilliant people out there, okay? Why should we settle for or accept an existence as we have? Why can we not be the aggressors? Why can we not say, hey, you know what? You see those big wealthy European families. You see the European Renaissance, where architecture, everything was created. That was created because of slavery. Financed that. So the question I will ask you: why can we not, from an intellectual perspective, okay, using technology, the digital age, why can we not control that supply chain? Why can't we not control everything from supply, right, to manufacturing, to sales and marketing, right, using digital technology? That's how everything is taking place in the world right now. So why we continue, when people come with good ideas, to focus on the past? Well, guess what? The past is exactly what it is. It's the past.
Yeah.
We have to look forward to the future,
Right.
right?
Point.
And for me, this is why I'm in support of this particular group. We have to look forward to the future, because if we become tribal, right, and start focusing on this and that, and he said this and all, the rest of the world is going to pass us by. And that's why I feel we need to focus our conversation right now and understand where we need to lead this country. I'm interested in creating prosperity for Grenada. Okay, that's where I'm from. That's where I was born. That's where my mother, passed away a little while ago in January, and she always instilled, no matter what, okay, look out for your country. And I was raised by two strong Black women. My grandmother, when my mother left me there, and she instilled values to me, in me, and also my mother. Okay, so
Right.
we need to start changing. We need to start thinking differently. We can't operate in an old economy when the new economy is what it is.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. All right. Dr. Antoine, I'll pose the same question to you. The economy was booming. We was talking about high surplus. We was talking about oil and gas increased, and that was 2008. That was 2018. What happened, and how is it that within a matter of months, after coming from such a booming economy, that we are in a position that we're in right now?
Well, let me say a couple of things. There is absolutely no question that I think our society has paid a high price for the performance that we've benefited from up until 2019. It was not all bad. In the area of macroeconomic adjustment, particularly in relation to the debt and in relation to how we raised revenue and paid every single one of us in our country, we paid a very high price, a price premium to bring our debt down, because we had to give up other things. A big sacrifice. We've done fantastic as a small country to have made the strides that we have. We cannot undo that. The issue is that in order to achieve that, Junior, we've paid a high price by giving up other things as well. We've had to give up, for instance, the maintenance of our physical infrastructure. Grenada faces what we call a infrastructure deficit, with a lot of our roads and other infrastructural type supports not being maintained at the level that they should. And of course, that also has a high cost later. We've also paid a high price in terms of not focusing sufficiently on the productive sectors. And I'll come back to that later. But I'm just trying to say to you that even though things appeared to have been going well, there were some structural impediments which I don't think we paid enough attention to, and these have turned into some constraints. And another one of those is investing sufficiently in education. So we put a lot of money in the Imani program, for instance. The Prime Minister recently said that he wants to re-evaluate the Imani program, call it, he wants to, have a working group, a commission, assess and evaluate the Imani program so that, whatever changes are required can be made. But a number of us have been saying since 2014 that the way in which the Imani program continued to be run did not respond to the demands of the new economy. This is documented. It's not old talk. So if the Prime Minister in 2020 says he wants to reevaluate that, I think that's very good. But we need now to look at how it's going to be reoriented, because we're very clear that it has to be directed in the areas of high demand in the new economy. And I'm making that because when you spoke about the high performance, I'm saying underneath all of that, you had all of these challenges to our development that were not as well recognized then as they are now. When you don't have money and you start to understand that the youth in the Imani program have been saying things for a long time that COVID has now unearthed, then you have to ask yourself, Junior, the question as follows. Since 2000 and whatever it was, 13 or 14, how much funds have we spent on that, and what could have been the benefit if those funds had been directed in the areas that I've been talking about? So those are real issues. So let me just say that though we were performing well, I keep making the point that poverty was a stubborn parameter on the downside. Yes, we reduced it. I would want to say from about 31% down to about 21 to 23, but it was really stubborn getting below that. And that pointed to what we needed to do to bring our people into productive activity, and that was not taking place. So yes, strong performance, but I'm making the point too that we paid a heavy price for that when we ought to claim it. So that is the way I want to address that issue of what the economy looked like. And all I'm saying to you is that COVID, that's the short answer to you, but I had to go there to really get to the point I want to make. COVID has simply exposed that. COVID has exposed the fact that we've underperformed in agriculture, massively so. St. Vincent and the Grenadines is a good comparator because they're next door, and our agricultural system was more diversified than them. And 3 decades ago, we were performing better than they were. They're now outperforming us by leaps and bounds because they have focused on doing some things that we did not do as well as they did. Notice what I said. I didn't say we didn't do it. We didn't do it as well as they have. And so while the agricultural exports now are growing past $100 million, our agricultural exports is really about $12 to $15 million. $12 to $15 million. Now, if I told my grandparents this 40 years ago, they would ask me what part of the world I come from. Meaning that if you told them 40 years ago that the time would come when other small countries, agricultural performance would outpace Grenada's, right? They would look at you and tell you that you're not from this planet. But that's what's happening now. Now, this is not just a criticism. This is saying that we have a lot of room to develop our economy if we do the right things. And what we are focused on is helping us to get there. We've done quite a bit in tourism, but the way in which the tourism product was developed could have been different. And I think COVID gives us an opportunity to revisit that. I'm not sure that we're taking it. That's why I'm interested in the conversation going forward.
Yes.
Our economy has performed well because of SGU and the other things, but a lot of that was based on foreign direct investment in the case of construction. SGU is a serious asset. We ought to applaud it. But I think we could have leveraged SGU a lot more. And those are some of the things that I think we have to own up to and embrace and use COVID to help us to get there. So the question of what happened is that COVID, where we couldn't import as much capital goods as we were before and the economy ground to a halt, as with all other economies, COVID has exposed a lot of the structural weaknesses. In the case of Grenada, it's exposed a lot of weaknesses that were there, which was hidden because we allowed ourselves to look at the macroeconomic parameters. When on the ground, and if you started looking at the performance criteria and parameters for the productive sectors, our country was showing signs of serious slowdown and serious stress in those sectors before COVID. And I'm making this point because I'm very, very objective about this. This is why I think we want to look forward. What is this economy we need to build out? How do we need to link tourism to agriculture?
All right, we got a quick call on the line. Caller, are you calling for the program?
How are you? I just called the number. I was looking for Patrick Dell.
Okay, okay, you gotta call the other number. Patrick is not here today. He'll be here another day. Mr. Antoine, you said something very, very interesting in your speech, right? And I had to really think about it to really understand where you're coming from. You said that a country as Grenada, paraphrasing, which is pregnant with opportunities, but always uncertain of the delivery date. What are some of the opportunities that you would like to outline that Grenada is so pregnant with?
Boy, it would be remiss if I didn't start by talking about nutmeg, and it's not all talk. We have an amazing product called the nutmeg, and then I want to talk to you about cocoa, and I want to talk to you about some of those other things that Grenada has a unique advantage in. And unfortunately, we haven't built out those advantages by building value-adding industries. We have not. So in a lot of instances, I think we're still exporting a lot of those products raw without building in the value, and the value is being extracted outside. And this is not just in terms of the product itself, but it's in terms of all of the things that go along with having a successful set of value products that's linked to something that you have a competitive advantage in. In the area of tourism, we have an excellent opportunity. We've had an excellent opportunity to link tourism to agriculture, and to use our policies to ensure that that link between agriculture and tourism. For instance, right now, there are some things the government could be doing to stimulate domestic agricultural production and to build out markets. We're not doing those. So that's another opportunity that I see. In the case of education, Grenada had an immense reputation as a center for the provision of services and service workers in the maritime sector. Carriacou, Petit Martinique. Grenada has had this rich tradition of having these just incredible stewards in the trade that you could put really in any part of the maritime sector, from boat building to, you know, just name it, longshoremen, whatever it was. We have lost that positioning because increasingly the sector is calling for people who are certified. And we're not in a position because we don't have the technical and vocational training and certification at home to benefit from this great expansion. So what's happened here is that many countries that did not have our tradition have benefited from the growth globally in these market spaces. That's another sector I'm pointing to. I'm also pointing to a number of, for instance, how do we unleash the potential of our micro and small sector in Grenada so that people who have innovative products and ideas can actually bring them to the fore. That mechanism's been used, and I believe that Nicholas Brathwaite spoke a lot about that in a number of countries successfully. We haven't been able to create the environment for young innovators and inventors and so on. And many of those who have succeeded, and we've had a few, have had to leave the country. So we have a number of areas that we need to work on. I mean, I can get into very, very detailed areas such as orderly services. And I mean, these are the health services and all of the range of different healthcare workers that the world needs, that we've not been providing, you know, the training and the vocational training and the professional certification for. And if you look at some place like St. Vincent, I'm just using them as an example because they're close, not because they're the world's best small performing economy. But St. Vincent had more people working on cruise ships than they had in their entire public service. They had more people and a better performing agricultural system, and now they're starting to innovate, doing some interesting things in artificial insemination. They're exporting stuff to us. And all of these opportunities are open to us. So I'm simply making the point that, listen, Grenadians are so creative. We need to unleash that potential.
Right.
And that is really where I'm coming from. And we will get into a lot more of this as we embrace the public with documents. But those are some of the areas that we're thinking about. And we need to be also sure that as we do that, we don't compromise our sovereignty. And that's a big area that we could get into. But even as we do that, we need to make sure that the terms on which we give people access to our country and to this thing called sovereignty is in proportion to what we expect our country to look like in 10 or 15 years. That's cryptic language for just saying that we ought to be very concerned when, for instance, our citizenship by investment program runs the potential, since a Grenadian is a Grenadian is a Grenadian, of allowing persons to acquire citizenship in numbers, since our people are not having children as fast as they used to 40 years ago, that could see the numbers grow to 30 or so % of our population. So for instance, 15 years from now, if you look at this and a Grenadian is a Grenadian is a Grenadian, and we're not mindful, then we can have a population where a large part of it are really not Grenadians who are born in Grenada or who maintain a connectedness with Grenada, save and except during times that are convenient to them, that make up a large part of our population. We have to ask ourselves some hard questions. Is that the type of development that we want? We don't have the answer, but we believe that that's the kind of conversation we need to be having without prejudice to offending anyone. Because when you ask the question, would another country that we get persons from, would they allow this, if the situation were reversed? And what would be the implications for our system of democracy going forward are things we need to talk about.
You made a very good point there. One I want to touch on, bringing in Mr. Douglas in the conversation. The Minister of Tourism made a very controversial remark last week when she outlined of a cruise ship potentially. She then went back and said that she misspoke, or she said certain things that she shouldn't at the time that she should have. But she basically outlined that a cruise ship would be coming into Grenada and is requesting a specific beach to dock, and she would like if locals don't patronize that beach at the time that those cruise ship is on that dock there. Mr. Douglas, what's your thoughts on that? And is that still the wrong idea as it relates to still looking at tourism and not looking at agriculture and other ways of development? Do you think that that's the wrong approach?
Yes. I mean, quickly, that's absolutely the wrong approach. But let's get to the root of that problem. The root of that problem is mindset, lack of creativity. So you're now focused on cruise ships when the cruise ship industry is going down because of COVID, right? So the point is, we have to stop living and trying to exist in a past world that no longer exists. What Dr. Antoine was saying, COVID, right, has exponentially changed your existence, the existence of the world, right? But the crisis of COVID also creates an opportunity. So with crisis comes opportunity. So how I would look at tourism is start to think about this, trying to create an existence on revenue from cruise ships. I don't know, what is it, $4,000 for when it docks? I mean, it's ludicrous, right? So start focusing on how the future of tourism is going to look like in the new world. Focus on how you are going to reach global markets using digital technology, sales and marketing technologies to bring people to Grenada once this thing, once COVID's, it may not go, it may be 2 years. We don't know, right? But what the rest of the world is doing, right, is beefing up their digital infrastructure, right, in order to go out there and market to the world. So when things do normalize, if that would be a word, if it will, you can now execute on your technologies to grow and reimagine your tourism industry. So now in the area of agriculture. So here's the problem. When you become over dependent on one industry, when there's a shock in that global economy, an entire industry can be wiped out. So let me ask you, just imagine in the area of fisheries or agriculture or whatnot, if we apply technology on the agricultural side, we apply artificial intelligence in order to tell us weather patterns, when to grow, what soil content, and then we employ artificial intelligence to find the best markets in the world for a particular, let's say, a particular fish or a particular fruit, and then we apply that knowledge and apply that data to actually invest in the agriculture that we know that there is demand there because we've investigated the data. So what we do now, we create our own ecosystem of economics and we create that wealth. So the thing about it, right, we can't exist on tourism alone. The world is a very competitive place, and tourism is an economy that does not. It's a very low. If you look at it, if you look at the sandals as an example for whatnot, that's an all-inclusive resort. With sandals, the executives, the management, the middle class, so to speak, are all white, and the people who do the labor at very, very low wages are black. There's no growth in income there for people to be able to go out, get a mortgage, buy a house, buy a car, send their kids to school, that particular lifestyle. The other problem with that all-inclusive, right, the inclusive model, is that the guy in the shop selling a Coke or some juice or some food never gets part of that because everything is inside sandals. So that the revenue never makes itself into the local economies, right? So that local economy can't grow. So what I am saying here, okay, historically, the application of technology in through civilization. You take the Industrial Revolution. The reason Britain became an empire is it invested heavily in the Industrial Revolution, and while it still extracted resources from the Caribbean, brought those resources to the UK, developed it, manufactured it, created commerce. So what I'm trying to say here is what technology does for you, it levels the playing field. Right. So if you look at right now in terms of school, my daughter, I have 3 kids. I have 2 kids in university, and I have a daughter at home. My 2 children in university everything is online. My daughter at home, she's doing everything online. Now, if a kid sitting in St. Patrick's, Grenada, have access to the internet, has a laptop in front of them, they can get the same subject matter, the same courses, science, biology, physics, whatever it is, they can get it based on technology. So what you do now is you apply that technology to the industry that you want to grow, and that's how you create the wealth. So instead of taking your raw resources or your product and just giving it to somebody else to make money on, take it yourself, do it yourself, control every angle, every point of the on the supply curve, from growing the vegetables, manufacturing it, marketing it on a global basis, and using data and artificial intelligence to tell you where the markets are, how to manufacture, what manufactured, who's going to buy it. Okay, it's artificial intelligence, and that's what we have to weaponize ourselves with. This is a mental game. Okay, it is a mental game. Okay, we have to start changing our mindset. So here's what I envision. The issue with the Caribbean right now in the global economy is this, right? The Caribbean does not have such great commodity exports that if that commodity sector starts going again, everybody becomes rich. Look at oil. Oil prices are going to continue to go down, right? That's what's happened. It's not going to bump back up anymore. Oil prices are going to continue to go down. So if you are a dependent economy based on commodities, you are at risk. But if you're an economy, okay, that is more, well, let me give it to you this way. I envision the Caribbean because it doesn't have commodity export in order to enrich itself in prosperity. I envision a Caribbean, okay, or I imagine a Caribbean that can become the Silicon Valley, sort of the Silicon Valley of the Caribbean, right? Like, the same intellectual ability from your very computer to write software, develop code, okay, develop marketing strategies. All it is, it's a computer, data, artificial intelligence. So you sitting in Grenada, right, with using technology, you can imagine and become entrepreneurial and control everything from the raw material to the export. So instead of sending the raw material to North America or to Europe and they manufacturing it, and they're paying you $2 or whatever it is, you now can turn that product in and from a retail perspective make $30, $40 in terms of profit margin. Yeah. This is how we have to think. We have to control our own wealth. We got to close our own wealth gap, and we got to control our own prosperity. We have to do it ourselves. Nobody else is going to do it for us. White folks, newsflash, right? White folks are not going to give up their privilege. Okay, they're not going to give it up to you. If you haven't noticed over the last 400 years, they're not going to do it.
There's no trickle down effect, and we observe that.
I want to come in on that question because I think it's important. The question you've asked, in fact, I thought it would have been asked on another program, but I didn't hear it being asked, and I want to just get the opportunity to address it. I believe that all of us at this time need to empathize with any administration that's in office, certainly in the Caribbean, because the economies have come to a sudden stop, and it's challenged a lot of the ways in which we have functioned, the way in which we have done business in the past, including, for instance, tax and spending. So we need to empathize, but at the same time, I want to make this second point. There are some things, my friend, that a society must recognize are inalienable rights. There are some things that are non-transactional. There are some things, to my mind, that we have to understand are non-negotiables. If a society does not understand and rally around the assets and the values and the norms that it will never negotiate, we're going to find ourselves in difficulties. And my friend, in the context of a Grenadian society, where for decades we have fought for these rights that we have, that right must be then interpreted within the framework of whatever government policy is being articulated. So when you come with a policy that says, allow us, if you wish, for a moment, to use the beaches without more, I believe we're going to have a difficulty as a society. We ought to have a difficulty accepting it. And let me tell you the way that I look at this thing for any policy of this nature. It has to pass what I would call the economic and financial test. It has to get an economic and financial license, if you wish. My brother Perry has spoken about the fact that the economic and financial license that was sought, the explanation given, is not strong enough for us to even have a serious discussion about whether this is a viable financial proposition. It was unfortunate that this was sold in that way, but I'm not sure there is any other way to sell it. Having regard to what I said about a society having things it must never negotiate. The second thing is that it must pass in this time the environmental and health license. So I understand, because I'm involved in policy formulation regionally and around the world, that you must, we understand that you have a bubble on the ship and you want to keep the bubble on the ship and transfer it to land so that you don't essentially burst or violate the bubble, which is what brings the risk of transmission. But you haven't discussed with us or with the community who is going to take those people in the bubble from the ship to the shore. You have not discussed with us as a community, since we know that COVID has it's been proven that it lives on these things when they leave and they touch and feel, etc., etc. Yes, you think it's a bubble, but we know there are people who are symptomatic, asymptomatic. When my child goes the hour after or the morning after, right, is there a risk? And what is the probability of this risk of transmission? You have not talked to me about it. And so when it comes to the health and the environmental license, you fail the health and environmental license, not because the science is wrong, but because you have not explained the science to me. And I'm not sure that you put all the mechanisms in place to ensure that science will direct the policy and direct your actions. So you fail in relation to what I call the environmental and the health license. And the third license is the social license. My friend, let me tell you something. Many, many projects have failed They have failed because although they passed the financial and economic test and they get the financial and economic license, and they pass the health and environmental test, so they get the health and environmental license, they fail because they are unable to convince the community that this project is good for them, that this initiative is good for them, that it will redound to their benefit. You fail to convince them that this somehow will bring meaning to their life or value in some way, shape, or form. And so on this one, because there wasn't consultations, because they were not, we did not have the transmission of the information in the way that I've articulated, because no one was really given a chance to ask all the hard questions. You fail on the social license. So while some projects you have now to do the metrics and say, okay, you've succeeded on this, that, but this one you fail on. In this context, based on what the minister announced at the time, it fails on all three. And finally, Grenadians are afraid that the practice that we see in one or two Caribbean countries, where beaches increasingly are being corralled for private use by those who pass the means test, those who are wealthy. Grenadians are afraid that these types of measures become a Trojan horse for those kinds of interventions by those who can afford it, that will increasingly encroach on their rights on a more permanent basis. And they have a right to be, because I know here of some issues in our country where people's animals are being let loose on beaches that somehow they have arrogated those rights unto themselves. And the authorities, to my mind, is not doing enough to communicate that these beaches are public and that access has to be there as a matter of right for everybody. So Grenadians rightly are very suspicious of this, and they should be, because a society must decide that some things are not for sale.
Yeah. And, just a quick transition into this. I've been following the news. About 2 weeks ago, a video went viral where a young man I think he was making his way to Fort Judy. I don't know if you guys got a chance to see it. I don't have it on playback, so I could refresh you on it. But it showed that there was security gates at Fort Judy that prevented access from this person to go on into that general area. What's your take on now these areas that are not even accessible to Grenadians? And it's happening right now. Perry, do you think that we have already gone too far? Or is it the point of no return? Or is it that we still could do something to save this arrangement from going further into effect?
I don't think we've gone too far. I think if you make up your mind to do something, you can always change your circumstance. But what your example, and forgive me, I do believe I did see that video, but I didn't dig into it enough to be able to form a very good opinion. So what I'm saying is just based on what I saw. But what that incident represented in relation to a security guard stopping a Grenadian from going into a particular area, it represented what I call an encroachment on sovereignty. So it's a symbol that if you, as Dr. Antonie said, if you have enough cash as a foreigner to come in, you can get your way. Now, I don't know anything in relation to property rights, because very well, if it's a private road, there are some legal matters there. So I'm not a lawyer, and I can't comment on the legality of it. But what we do know, and let's just get the elephant out of the room. What we do know is that China, for example, not only in in Grenada, but in the Caribbean, and it's been happening throughout Africa. Once you have, once you become indebted to, if for example, if you look at the Livera project, right? So I'm going to ask you a simple math question. If your GDP is $1.3 billion a year, and you're borrowing $4 and $5 and $6 billion from someone, and the project, the economics of the project shows no real opportunity of making a return. Once you become indebted in that capacity, people think they own you, right? People believe they own you. So what happens now, which has been happening in Africa, which has been happening in other places in the Caribbean, you have an encroachment on sovereignty. So people feel now, oh, you know, they can kick you off the beach and go use the beach. So it's not necessarily the beach, it's the issue. It's the concept that Grenada might be for sale, or it's the concept, an idea that if we have enough money, we can move these islanders aside and we can take what we want. And that is happening right now in Grenada. And it's not only Grenada, it's other Caribbean islands. So we need to wake up, essentially, and understand the bigger ramifications of those little incidents in relations to people feeling emboldened enough to essentially say, hey, I'm going to stop this road here. I'm going to put a security guard there, and all this property is mine. Like I said, I don't know the legalities of it, but that is the idea of an encroachment in sovereignty. And like Dr. Antoine said, before you know it, right? Before you know it, somebody else owns your island and you're working for them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want you to touch on that, Dr. Antoine. Also, if you could touch briefly on the Last Suggest and the Livera project. Give us some details. And do you see any good in that for Grenada or Grenadians?
Yeah, well, a couple of things. Let me say that in relation to the Fort Judy matter, I don't have the brief, the details, but let me tell you the way that I come at this. I come at this from a perspective that says to me, our society is becoming too polarized, and our society increasingly is premised on a strong dose of mistrust. So that we have mistrust not just between political combatants. We have mistrust in various societal groups, and it's not a tendency that I think is healthy. I think we need, which is why we've spoken about a consensus in our society and the role of TGM. We need to be able to have organizations that span the divide, because increasingly we're not talking to each other. We're talking to ourselves in silos. And I think the Fort Judy matter may be one such matter where it's not so much what the action that was undertaken is. It's the mere fact that I think it could have been done differently. I'm not saying that I have the details, but I'm saying even if it's a private development, and there is a sense that the Grenadian society they've come to regard it as essentially, you know, embodying some traditional rites of passage, the right to take a drive, then I think we could have embraced a different modality for communicating that. And what I saw there didn't give me a great deal of comfort as a Grenadian myself. So I think this points to the need for groups like the TGM, because simple dialogue could have said, look, there's some problems here where people using this private development, somehow it is disturbing the neighbors who are elderly, which of course is something we have to deal with in Grenada, or it's littering of the you know, the spaces which are not public spaces, and even if it was public spaces, you ought not to litter it. Let's have a conversation, man. We're not talking to each other anymore, and that worries me. In relation to the Last Suggest project and the project in Livera, Let me say that I believe that the projects, I have not looked at the details of them, but I understand that the projects definitely has some benefits for society in terms of employment, economic activity. But you know, the way in which the thing was done, I followed the Lassages project because I have a vested interest in that community. My grandmother was born in that community, and people in that community called me. Not everything is transactional, so you destroy, valued environmental spaces. How do you compensate for that? How do you fix it? You know, in many countries, you know, the project would have been stopped indefinitely until this matter is worked out. I'm not saying that ought to be the fix, but I'm saying by the grace of God, we have to have some things that we're not prepared to negotiate. Let me tell you that I lived in Florida. I lived in Florida, went to university, taught, and in that community, if you did an action such as the action that was undertaken either in Livera or in Lassages, you would have some very, very, very stiff penalties and fines. So where are the sanctions in Grenada? This speaks to the need for us to very seriously look at our legislation to ensure that people don't sin first and ask for absolution afterwards. We need to have sanctions and penalties that make you understand that if you sin, we are going to make you pay your due and then some. So in Grenada, I will fix it. In Grenada, in Lassages, in Livera, you don't really get the environmental approvals up front, but you start building the workers' dormitories, you know? So you go ahead and you start doing things without even getting the proper licenses in place. Now again, the projects may be good, but when you do it that way, you destroy your ability to get your social license. And it then sets the project up in a confrontational kind of an adversarial context, where even when the project comes on stream, you're going to have tensions with the community. Where is our social currency, my friend? This is what TGM is trying to work on so that we don't have these things happening one after the other, seemingly with impunity. And that's how people feel in the center. A lot of them tell us that they feel they have no recourse, they have no voice, they have no mechanism that can advocate for them in a strong way that will not be seen to be, as it were, partisan.
Yeah. Yeah. Guys, could you imagine that we talk for an hour and a half? No break, just talk. We are going on 2 hours now. And usually the program is an hour. So we went way over time already. So I really want to continue the conversation. There's so much that we could talk about. I want to talk about, before we wrap, and get you guys parting words on this, a situation that recently happened. A gentleman left Canada. It was reported by the post-cabinet briefing just last week. A gentleman left Canada, went into Grenada. He fled quarantine. He left quarantine. Said that security, he bypassed security at the hotel where he was staying. And I looked at it and I'm like, somebody dropped the ball, right? In your observation of this situation, I don't know if you're paying attention to it, where he possibly could have probably affect over 30-something people, including some of his family members. Who dropped the ball in this situation right here? Is it the responsibility for the RGPF and the ministry to secure quarantine location, or should that be left up to the hotels themselves? Yeah, you could take it.
Okay, yeah. To be honest, this is the first time I'm hearing about the situation, so I'm not. One of the things I hate to do is comment on things that I don't know enough
Okay.
about. But I would just say that in general, there must be processes and procedures in place so these things don't fall through the cracks. So again, I am at a disadvantage because I don't know I don't know anything about this particular story, but it just means that we have to have strong institutions, strong policies, strong procedures, and it must be everything must be in line from the minute you enter the airport, and even the procedures and the hotels, things must be reinforced.
But
So
the idea, the
yeah,
general
okay.
concept, the general idea
Mhm.
that you have a situation where security, the responsibility, security responsibility is placed on the hotels themselves. When we're not sure of the level of security, right? It could be someone just securing with with a baton, just sitting
Mm.
around. I don't know the level of security, right?
Okay,
It is
okay.
not. I don't think that it is RGPF security. So what I'm
Mhm.
saying is, shouldn't that be a responsibility placed on the RGPF, on the Ministry of Health, to ensure that quarantine facilities are properly secured, so that we don't have a situation where somebody give a security $20 and run outside and buy a beer and infect
Yeah,
other people? Who should
yeah.
that responsibility? Who should want that responsibility?
Yeah.
Well. I just quickly. Well, the responsibility for keeping the people of the country safe is on the government, right? I don't know what the title is, but there must be a minister of public safety and whatnot, and that is where the responsibility lies. Like I said, I don't have enough information to, but that will just be a general observation on my part.
Okay, all right. Dr. Antoine, I don't know if you versed with what happened. A gentleman left Canada, came into Grenada. He ran from quarantine 4 days or so before. He was tested positive. He went out. He possibly went to different events, possibly affected other people. Who should that responsibility be on? Should it be the responsibility of the hotel for security, or should it be the RGPF taking on the responsibility to secure those quarantine locations?
Yeah, thanks a lot. I think this gives us an opportunity to revisit what we have. And to my mind, it is certainly not prudent to have the hotel provide what is an important check and balance in terms of compliance with our health regulations in circumstances where this is a pandemic. This is not mumps or measles, it's a pandemic. So my own view is that it points to the need, and I don't know what the legislation says in Grenada where that is concerned. I haven't studied it. We've been too busy this week. But it points to the need to have continuous monitoring of persons who are in facilities such as this. And when you have people in quarantine facilities that are not private homes, there is an even greater burden on the state to ensure that that the monitoring and compliance is in place. The reason I say so is that, if you're at home, yes, they may call once or twice or check on you or some other part of the house, and they check back. Or you can understand those things. But when you're in a public quarantine facility, I think the owner certainly has to be on the public health authorities through monitoring and surveillance to make sure that persons don't escape before the time. And this is not an ordinary crisis. And again, without condemning anyone, because I think in Grenada we have a tendency when things go wrong to condemn. Let's fix it. Let's see why this happened, and let's look at what loopholes now need to be tightened. Because let me tell you something, with the best will in the world, if a human being decides to be reckless, there's very little that the authorities can do, save and except you put them in a facility where their freedom is impaired. And this is really not that type of facility. It's supposed to give you sufficient access to the things that you need with proper cautions in place, etc., etc. But when you can escape that facility in that way, then I think it raises other questions. So that's the way I want to look at it. Again, saying that there comes a point at which we have to depend on citizens to do the right thing. And where they can't, such as in this gentleman's case, just as with those who violate the environmental regulations and so on that we have in place, we ought to take punitive action. So someone like that should be, the full force of the law should be thrown at them. Let's look at fixing it and tightening it.
Right. And we're going to say alleged because we're not sure. I'm hearing people saying that the gentleman have a different story to it. I've had my share of contrasting information with the Ministry of Health. I had my full share of it, and you guys that's watching know what I'm talking about. So the jury's out on this particular case here because that is one side of the story. That is the ministry side of the story. We have yet to hear the gentleman's side of the story. But as of yesterday, I spoke to a very close family member who gave me some information, and I'm putting together a vlog that I'm going to share with everyone. But my personal take on it, for what it's worth, I believe that the RGPF or the ministry should have the responsibility to make sure and enforce that, and don't put that burden on the facility themselves. Hold on, guys. Yeah, don't put that responsibility on the facility themselves, but it's also the responsibility of each individual person. Whether you come from Grenada or wherever you come into, you have a responsibility to adhere to your protocol, your quarantine protocol. Mashida, she's in Grenada right now, and I'm sure she's there for the next 4 days, and she's cooked up in quarantine. She could do it. I went to Canada. I was in Canada, and for 14 days I stayed inside. On the 15th day, man, I was just like, I went to Ocean. I couldn't wait. But it's policy. It's policy, and you can't be reckless. You cannot be reckless. If that is the case, and again, the jury is out on this still because we still to hear the guy's side of the story, and we're putting together a vlog which you're going to get both sides correct. But if that is the case, I want to just say this right here, that every person should adhere to quarantine rules and policies. It's your responsibility. You're protecting yourself and your family as well. Guys, it was absolutely a pleasure chatting with you guys. We need to do this again, Dr. Antoine and Mr. Douglas. We need to do this again sometime soon.
Absolutely, anytime.
All right.
Junior, let me thank you for the really excellent way in which you allowed us to talk in a relaxed setting this evening. And I say this with all seriousness. There are very few journalists, bloggers, social media personality or host that don't become the conversation themselves. And the way in which I think you asked your questions in an objective manner and allowed us to really respond, and you really encouraged the conversation without becoming, as it were, the conversation piece, I think is really, really excellent. And I just want to encourage you to continue with your program and with the way in which I think you have embraced your hosts, allowing them to express their views without superimposing your own thinking on them. Excellently done. Well done. I really want to applaud you in that regard.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you. And we're going to keep following the progress of TGM. Of course, we're going to keep following you, Mr. Perry Douglas, as you do so many things, great things out there in the diaspora. And I was in your backyard just last week, Mr. Douglas. But we couldn't meet because, it's quarantine.
Yeah, when you text me, I said, "Hey, we're strict here in Canada. I don't want to be on TV saying I broke any quarantine rules, right?" So, but I would just want to take a moment though to echo Patrick's words. I'm kind of new to your show, and I think I was kind of introduced to it in my infamous moment on that other show, and I've been following you and communicating you. So what I want to express is that I think what you're doing is a really wonderful public service. The opportunity to get people information, the opportunity to give people an opportunity to learn and get into facts. And what I really like about your show, it's very diverse.
Yeah.
You had a young man who couldn't walk, and I think I had sent you a note that we need more of this. We, as Grenadians or as human beings, we need to show compassion and empathy, right? And I think what you're doing, in my view, is a really wonderful public service, and I'm happy anytime to be on your show because I think you're doing excellent work.
Thank you guys so much, and we appreciate you. We're going to have you back again, but rest assured, if and when we do see something that doesn't really smell too right, we will put the full force of the program on you as well. We don't have no favoritism here. We're equal opportunity.
That's good to hear.
That's good.
Equal opportunity, guys. Thank you so much. We'll keep in touch. All right.
All right. Okay.
All right.
Take care. All right. Bye-bye.
Yeah, Mr. Perry Douglas and Dr. Patrick Antonie. Great conversation. It's great that we could have this type of ventilation, guys. And without disrespect, you don't have to disrespect, although you might have a difference of opinion. And that's what we try to bring across here, right? There are many ways to disagree with someone without being disrespectful, right? And I think everyone understands that. Guys, we appreciate you all so much. Don't forget, Ridealong platform is a platform where you share your stories. As we say, everyone have a story to tell. And when we say everyone, we mean everyone, like every person. You have a story to tell. And like yesterday, we had a story with a young lady where she came on and she committed murder. Yeah, she stabbed her ex-boyfriend and she expressed remorse. It wasn't about she coming and gloating about the fact that she killed her ex-boyfriend. The fact that she saw something was happening in her life and she came to talk about it in retrospect. And I think it helped a lot of people. Now, there's a lot of people right now, especially in this COVID time, they're depressed. They're going through a whole lot. And we urge everyone just to be a brother's keeper, be our neighbor's best friend. Because sometimes we are the people that also need that best friend. And when we need it, we need somebody with love for somebody to be there for us. And hence the reason why we are being our brother's keeper by partnering with Joel Greenidge, and a host of other great organizations, starting in Grenada, by having our $1,000 shopping spree. Now, we understand, right? We understand that there's a lot of people right now, not only in Grenada, but all through the Caribbean, that's going through hardship. They cannot afford basic necessities. The children are pretty much going to go to sleep tonight hungry. We want to provide some assistance, some financial assistance, some groceries, some food, some items. So here's what we're going to do, guys. We're going to do a $1,000 shopping spree, right? We're going to try to do this as much as monthly. This happened to be the first one. So if you know someone that needs assistance, financial assistance, we want you guys to nominate someone. Nominate someone. You could download the Emoji app right now. You could download the Emoji app. This is Emoji. Download that app, Emoji. Go to the App Store and download Emoji right now. And nominate someone to be a part of our shopping spree. Put their names in there. All right? This person would be randomly picked, and given an opportunity to go into a grocery store and pick up $500 worth of items, and we will front the bill. Yeah, we will front the bill. Please nominate someone that you know need the assistance, because anybody in that pool could win. Anybody inside of that pool could win. So please, guys, do it right now. Download this app right there on the screen. It's called Emoji. Just search Emoji in your app store. Download that app and let's nominate someone. Now, if you want to help us, if you want us to continue this, you could support us by donating. Yeah, you could donate to us so we could continue this. Probably, do it more than once a month. We could do it twice a month, right? But with your help, we could help much more people. So we ask you guys to please help us so we can help others. Let's be our neighbors, our brothers' keeper. We never know when we will be in a position and we need assistance as well. All right? So guys, if you need more information, you want to donate to this cause, contact Ridealong. Contact us, inbox us, and we will tell you how you could donate. You could donate right now. This event will go straight to the Caribbean. We started off in Grenada. We're going to go to Jamaica next, and we go to St. Vincent and all through the Caribbean to help people with needed food, groceries for their fridge, especially coming through Christmas time. Yeah. Thank you guys so much. We love and appreciate you. And thanks to all of our sponsors. Don't forget Clark's Court, and they have the where is it? Hand sanitizer. Guys, you guys realize we didn't run an ad, right? This was brought to you commercial free by Emoji. This whole program was brought to you commercial free by Emoji. But we got a couple commercials to run now. Anyway, guys, catch me tomorrow right here on Ride Along Live. Peace out, guys. Bye-bye.
A message by the Grenada Distillers Limited.
You want a hand sanitizer to do 3 things: kill germs, be gentle, and to go where you go. You can get all of that in our hand sanitizer. Hard on germs, gentle on hands, affordable. Remember, hand sanitizers contain alcohol. Keep away from heat and flames and avoid contact with eyes. Available at retailers island-wide.
A message by the Grenada Distillers Limited.
Hey, I got some good news for you. Looking for a passionate immigration lawyer with experience that spans over 2 decades? Someone trusted that served immigrant families just like yours? Well, look no more. Now you can benefit from her personal and professional experience. Diane Winter Funde. Schedule a consultation now and get assistance with your immigration journey. Specialize in adjustment of status, B1 business visa, B2 visitor's visa, consular processing, deportation defense, naturalization, and more. Give us a call today at 813-815-3529. That's 813-815-3529 or online at winterimmigration.com. Attorney Diane Winter Funde. Law done differently.
Everything have to happen.